Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. I'd like to talk about one issue that is very common. It commonly crops up in our group on Facebook, and also I am often contacted by individuals who are in this situation, and what I'm talking about here is how NKT members sort of break up their own families, or some kind of abandonment occurs. NKT members, active NKT members, abandon their families. There have been many of these cases. Recently there was a BBC report about this. I'm going to put the link to this report in the comment section or in the description of the video, so you can see it. This elderly gentleman who lost a son to the NKT, this man has not contacted him since he got more deeply involved with the organization. So, but this is actually, it seems to me that it's a common issue. So currently I'm in touch with people whose spouses have simply abandoned them to dedicate themselves full-time to the NKT. These spouses, these abandoning spouses, feel that somehow their NKT activities are incompatible with their families, or for whatever reason they're not able to give the time and the attention that their families need. So the question arises, why is that? And of course, if somebody joins group, that a coercion type of group, it is normal that they're going to eventually spend more and more time with this group. They will dedicate more and more of their free time that normally they would dedicate to their families to this group. The NKT encourages this behavior. When I was involved with the NKT, my personal experience was that whatever I was doing outside the NKT had absolutely no value or meaning. In fact, they often were talking about meaningful activities, and meaningful activities were exclusively activities that you did within the NKT, it seemed to me. So whenever I would talk about some success in my job or my family life, it was just considered not particularly interesting or meaningful. Or when there were events and festivals to participate in, and I would explain that I was not able to participate in these events, it would always be like, well, your family is not that meaningful. Whatever you do, that's, you're not really helping anyone with that. The real help and the real meaningful activity would be to participate in these events, and so on and so forth. But I've already talked about this in other videos, so I'm just repeating myself here. But let's see what other people's experiences are. There is one person who shared this experience of their mom who hasn't talked to them or their family in months, and this person is reporting that they have a gut feeling that the NKT is isolating her from her family. Is that possible? And this person is saying, asking, what should I do? She has been in the NKT for over 10 years and her whole life revolves around it. So yeah, this is what happens obviously here is that this mother who's been in the NKT for 10 years just is getting more and more involved, and as time goes by, more and more investment of their time and resources are given to the NKT. So when you spend so much time in the NKT, you're beginning to, or you have completely interiorized this idea that whatever is out there in samsara is not meaningful, and that your family is not that important as all sentient beings in the world. Because of this constant brainwashing and manipulation in the centers and at the various events and on social media, people might adopt this idea that there are basically two parts of life. One is samsara and the other one is the NKT. So one is like out there, some other NKT people call it externally, or conventional reality, or external reality, and the other one is the internal reality. So one is like this samsara, and this idea is very common, that there is no happiness in samsara, there is no satisfaction in samsara, there is nothing you can do for people in samsara. Like, people in the NKT don't realize that samsara doesn't exist, just like no other phenomena exists. It's a concept. It's something that we create in our mind, and it's a question of how we view phenomena in our lives. So when you integrate the Buddhist teachings, you realize that your normal everyday life, which the NKT calls samsara, and it's like this hopeless place where you really shouldn't be spending a lot of time, is life itself is samsara or nirvana. It's a question of your mind state, and that your everyday life, your family, your friends, your colleagues, the traffic jam, whatever it is, they are opportunities to practice the Dharma, to integrate the Dharma teachings, and to grow as a person and help others in their daily lives, not in samsara. Like, if you help someone, if you do a kind action, that's already help. It's not like the NKT is saying, oh, you're just helping them in samsara. If you give a coin to a beggar on the street, that's already helping that person in a tiny way, but it is already a kindness. It is already help. This is what the Buddha taught. But for the NKT, that's not help, because you're just helping them, making samsara a little bit better, and helping people in samsara is not helping them. This is the fundamental craziness of the NKT, which I think leads to so many broken up relationships and friendships and marriages and families. So here is, for example, a post that was put up in the group of the students and followers of Geshe Gyatso. This was a few months ago, one of the NKT members saying, if we make a promise for day to refrain from idle chatter, but then something happens and we feel the need to speak to family because it would make them happy, but it includes idle chatter, this is breaking the promise I have made to Buddha, right? What if family wants to speak to me and I feel it would be rude to just answer with one-word answers, or rude to just completely ignore them because I'm not able to speak to them about meaningful things with them? What should I do? Should I strictly refuse all speech that is not meaningful on these days without exception? Or does it depend if I have a good intention to ease their mind, talking about things they're interested in, or whatever, even if it is idle? So yeah, there is this idea of idle chatter in the NKT, which is overemphasized. I'm realizing that these are Mahayana concepts, perhaps. I don't know Mahayana Buddhism so much. I practice another type of Buddhism where these concepts just basically never come up at all. But, they truly overemphasize this idea of idle chatter. And this is not the only post that I've seen on social media, on NKT social media, about people being confused and perplexed about how to deal with their own families, how to talk with their own families. So what happens here is that the NKT teachings are such that people at some point, many people, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people at some point feel that they don't know how to relate to their own families, because just talking about everyday things is, idle chatter is not meaningful, and, they have made this promise of not engaging in idle chatter. Now, if there was integration between the teachings and normal everyday lives, then this would not come up, because every single situation in everyday life is an opportunity to practice the Dharma. And idle chatter, whatever you call that thing, can become meaningful chatter, can become something beautiful, can become something that is done with empathy and sympathy and compassion and love. And then it's not idle chatter anymore, right? So, but this is something that comes up over and over and over again. So then there is another NKT member who posts, my birthday wish is to be able to maintain pure view of my family. So again, maintaining pure view of your family, like what does that even mean? Like, this person obviously views their family as people who are hopelessly sunk in samsara, they are hopelessly deluded, they have unpure minds, and these are all the ideas that are moving around in the NKT. This is what all the teachings, like most of the teachings, are about, purifying your mind and impure mind, and so on and so forth. And so viewing your family, maintain pure view of your family. So that, I suppose, means viewing your family as Vajrayogini and Buddha Heruka and manifestations of whatever, right? Which is a common thing in the NKT. A lot of people are trying to do this. It never works. It just creates constant problems and conflicts in the family. I mean, imagine you have a father or mother or a husband or a wife who doesn't see you for who you are, your personality with all the good things and the bad things, but they're trying to view you as some kind of an emanation of some kind of a Buddhist deity. Like, how would that relationship actually work in practical ways, right? Like, it would be very difficult to maintain a relationship with someone who is not seeing you because they're seeing Tara, or they're seeing Vajrayogini or Buddha Heruka, or whatever it is. And so your whatever problems you may have would just be your deluded mind and your delusions, right? And obviously, when they're trying to see you as a Buddhist deity, and then you come up with some issue or some problem regarding normal everyday life, which would just be termed as a delusion, there would be a conflict there, because they're trying desperately to see you as this Buddhist deity, but you are not behaving as a Buddhist deity. So it is not something that can actually really work unless one is a very, very advanced practitioner of Buddhism. And that is not something that is very common in the NKT. The NKT, in my opinion and in my experience, doesn't have a lot of very, very advanced practitioners, because if it did, these issues and these posts would not be posted so frequently on these various NKT forums. So far I've just been talking about the teachings and how the teachings sort of create this mental state in a lot of the followers, a lot of the NKT followers, to view their families or friends or whatever, other people in their lives who are not part of the NKT, with this idea of like samsaric situations or manifestations of various Buddhist deities and so on and so forth, but not really being able to turn to the people in their lives with actual humanity and actual real compassion and empathy. Another thing that I think we should mention here is the sexual abuse issues. This is a constant thing in the NKT. We know about the sexual abuse cases that went on with Neil Elliott, or again Tupten, who has now disappeared. We don't know where he is. He's not teaching anymore. I've heard that he was ill. And then Steve Wass, I'm not sure his name, how it's pronounced, but there were these two very important teachers. And other sexual abuse issues have come up over the years that have not been so publicly acknowledged by the NKT. There is actually a post in our group regarding one of the important teachers in the NKT in Canada. And then this post says, let me quote here, I'm not going to say his name, but the post says, seems like this so-called teacher is a classic wolf in a sheep's clothing. Stay away. We've just been alerted to the fact that this creep is currently in the process of destroying someone's marriage in the name of pure Kadampa Buddhism. So the issue here is that according to the rules and regulations of the NKT itself, the teachers and obviously the monks, the ordained members, monks and nuns, are not allowed to have sexual relationships with the students, to start engaging in sexual relationships with the students. And yet this is extremely common within the NKT. Obviously, the teachers, especially the male teachers, are seen as something superior by their students, and so they are in a power position. We know that. We know that spiritual teachers are usually in a power position regarding their students. They seem sexy, they seem intelligent, and so it's easy to start sexual relationship with these students. I'm not going to go into this whole topic of sexual abuse in the NKT in this video, because this is not my topic today, but it is an issue in the NKT. It always has been an issue in the NKT, and there will be videos regarding this issue in the future. But because this is a widespread problem where teachers, whether they're ordained or not, routinely engage in sexual relations with their students, independently of whether they're married or not. Obviously, this creates a situation where people who have families might abandon their families to engage in these types of relationships. This truly does go against the moral regulations and the moral discipline that the Buddha taught. So another reason, and maybe this would be my final topic here, is that often relationships happen within the members themselves because they feel that they understand each other much better. They view each other as, Vajrayogini and Haruka or whatever. And so when a person goes to a center regularly or an events regularly, they're going to meet somebody else who also goes regularly, they're going to meet up, they're going to like each other, there's going to be some kind of sexual tension or emotional tension. And obviously what's going to happen, that eventually a relationship like that is going to lead to breaking up one's family. That's happened many times. I am in contact with a lot of people whose spouses have left them, even with children, or it's a very sad thing. But because of this constant NKT brainwash about how people out there are so deluded and they really don't quite understand us, and they don't understand our path, and they are hopelessly stuck in samsara. So when you find someone who is on the same path as you and similarly brainwashed as you are, it can feel like this wonderful thing that, oh my God, is a real twin flame or a twin soul or something, and that will make it easier for the person to abandon their families and children, spouses, mom, dad, brother, sister. It happens a lot. We've got a lot of such posts in our group, and I'm also in touch with people who this happened to. I'm talking about at least a dozen people who have contacted me over the years, and from all over the world who this happened to. And it's a very common issue, common problem. So the question arises, okay, so what could the NKT do to prevent these situations from happening? Well, they could just start by teaching real Dharma, by not brainwashing people with stuff all the time, by not creating this dichotomy between the out there and the in here, and the them and us mentality, and this idea that whoever is not practicing Dharma in the NKT is hopelessly stuck in samsara and cannot be helped no matter what, which undermines relationships, deteriorates relationships, and does not serve anyone, neither the NKT member nor their families. So they could actually discuss this issue and encourage people to spend quality time with their families and view it as some kind of a purifying experience and kindness, and the fact that whatever you do, whenever you are in touch with other people, it's a wonderful opportunity to practice the Dharma. And whether it is your family, your mom, your dad, your co-workers, your neighbors, whatever it is, it's a wonderful opportunity. It's the best opportunity to practice the Dharma. And encourage people to spend time with their families, not bringing their families into the NKT, because that is pretty much encouraged. There are wonderful programs for kids and families. The NKT would love to see entire families engaged in the center and in working for the different centers and working for the NKT. Yes, we know that, and paying for events and going to festivals. They would love that. So that is encouraged, you see. But they should also encourage the individual members whose families are not part of the NKT to spend more time and more quality time with their families and see them as just normal people who need to be treated with respect and love and appreciation and gratitude. And also, they could just stop talking about this constant dualistic worldview of us and them, and samsara and the bodhisattva way of life, and so on and so forth, because it's not conductive to anything good. I see that it is really more of an obstacle on the path than help. So these are my 2 cents. This is what I think about this issue, and let me know what you think, and put your ideas or opinions in the comment section. And thank you very much for your attention.